Many of us were hoping that the crypto market would take off by now. We're in early July of 2025, and we do know that this pattern has emerged with crypto that every 4 years, crypto does a massive blow off top where it goes absolutely crazy. Now, it seems that we've been leading up to that, but the blow off top has still not happened, leading some to believe that, oh my gosh, this is as good as it gets, and we'll probably go down from here. And many of us are still looking at the price action and saying, no, that major run is still coming, and it may be absolutely huge because of government adoption, because of government finally putting out clarity and regulations so that institutional adoption can happen this cycle. How's it going to play out? Well, we're going to look at the price action, take a look at, see what clues it gives us in both money flows in and out of crypto going to other things, as well as what's happening with Bitcoin price. Then we'll look at some altcoins and see what's happening there. Welcome to the Crypto Rain channel in our family. Now, if you, like me, came into crypto because you realize there is savage potential here to make life-changing gains, as long as you're doing it right and over a greater 4 to 8 year period, and you're looking for discussions on becoming a solid, unshakable, savage crypto investor, like a Navy SEAL of crypto investing, well, you're in exactly the right place. I was once new to the crypto space myself 8 years ago. Now, there were some fundamental misunderstandings I had. I didn't know at that time that really the way the YouTube algorithm is designed, that you grow a huge YouTube channel by essentially talking about things that are already high and being optimistic for why they'd go higher. So I didn't realize the first year that incentives were most often all wrong on YouTube with people talking about crypto. Myself, I was hungry for analysis on cryptos that were underpriced and undervalued, that hadn't run like crazy already. And I didn't find that. So I was doing so much research anyway. In 2020, I created that. We discussed crypto as an investment and discussed the most important things like investment cycles, specific projects, pros and cons of those projects, and the risks and guesses the upside if it comes together well. Now, today's our Wednesday show, so we have Paul from DEVVE joining us, and we'll be focused almost entirely on price action with a little bit of fundamentals when we look deeper at some of the altcoins. If you're looking for additional, deeper discussions, join our private Patreon group that allows you access to our Rainmaker private Discord. In our private Discord is where the best discussion and best info is. There are other benefits too, but you will have to join us to find out. Do note I'm not a financial advisor. I'm a crypto investor myself. Paul invests in many different markets, and none of this to be taken as financial advice. Well, make it rain on that like button. Strap in for the show because today's Wednesday, and as you know, we have Paul joining us.
Good to be here. And interesting that, markets having maybe a bit of a breather, but still things are bubbling up and looking really interesting. And as you was talking, I was just thinking back to the tariff situation and how everyone thought that was it, that was the end. And look at how much higher the market's come since then. I remember Bill Gardner's comment online when he was saying, you just have to stay calm and just kind of wait to see what's going on. And it was, I know there's a lot of other people who thought the same. It was a crazy period, but this is an indication, perhaps more so, that the market wants to go higher because it has resisted one of these big kind of exogenous shocks, if you like. And as we know, the way Trump gets business done is he just acts a little crazy. Now, it may not win him any favors when it comes to,
That's so true.
Yeah, I mean, he's standing on the global stage. Whatever you think of him, it's actually like a really good tactic to make people think that you could just do anything. I don't think you can do anything because people will eventually kind of work around you, and there are long-term issues. But the short-term situation is still positive. The macro situation is still positive, And I could say that this week, some of the things that we've been looking for in terms of the altcoins might be starting to happen. So a little bit of the old, what we call the green shoots, are starting to pop out that might suggest that things could get interesting.
Yeah. What are some of the things that you're talking about there? Because I do agree that we see it further bubbling up. And I remember the first time I heard you say it, it was like 4 years ago, that the market climbs a wall of worry. And then
Yeah.
we just see that with like, oh my gosh, there's going to be a tariff war and all the world's prices are going to go up and all these businesses are going to go out of business. And yet prices have still gone up despite that.
Yeah, that's really what you're looking for. Sentiment is key, and you're looking for people to be overly one side of the boat. Some people describe it as a boat, and everyone's on one side and you go on the other, and then however you want to look at it, whatever analogy you want to use. But contrary opinion theory, which is just something that suggests that when everybody thinks something, they're usually wrong. So the majority are usually wrong. And there was a phrase by an old trader. I mean, they all get repeated in different ways, don't they? These old phrases. Maybe Buffett would have said it. Maybe Munger would have said it at some point. But if something's obvious, it's obviously wrong. And if something looks obvious, like it's going to go up, it might not actually. If it looks too obvious, then everybody will be trading in it. And if everyone's trading in it, everyone's bought. And if everyone's bought, there's no more capital. So the only place it can go is down. I don't think we've hit that. It doesn't feel like sentiment's like that. It feels like sentiment is still looking for some form of pullback, a crash, or is very skeptical of what's going on. So because of that, and because the markets are broadly in upward trends, the bias could be wrong, of course. Anyone could be wrong. And this isn't, as you said at the beginning, it's not investment advice. This is just probability. It seems like the the trend will go higher. Now, it's unusual for sentiment to be at this level and the market to go into a major bear market. Unusual and impossible are two very different things, but most of the time this is what happens. So this is why sticking with it is seems to be the right strategy. Now, it doesn't mean it's easy either, because of course these things come along and they derail what is your strategy. And as Mike Tyson says, everyone's got a plan until they get smacked in the mouth. And that's kind of what the market does sometimes. You think, I'm just going to hold on, and you look at the chart and think you will, but it's not how it's not how it feels when it pulls back against you and all the world's saying things are going to melt down. So I'm not trying to make it sound like it was, just it was really obvious and easy, because it isn't anything like that. But the underlying macro scene hasn't given the signal that it needs to give, I think, to suggest that everything is topped and everything's going to go down. If anything, it looks like things are going to accelerate, because the risk on, what we call the risk on plays, which are things like precious metals, base metals, mainly equities and other things, all look like they're going to explode higher. So,
Let's
and
look
as I've
at
said
some of
before,
the setups on that. Why don't we go to the thing where you're able to share your screen and look at, because
yeah,
that's an integral part. I did want to address one thing that you shared there about how, well, everyone gets on one side of the boat, and usually it's good to be on the other side of the boat. You said that usually, well, I guess if I were to summarize, crashes usually happen when everyone's expecting it to go way higher.
yeah.
So right now, there's too many people expecting it to crash down for it to likely actually be a crash. Is that a summary?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I know some of this from your property trading, or not trading, but investment.
Hmm.
The time to get in is when no one really wants to get in, and the time to get out is when everybody thinks there's easy money. So it applies kind of pretty much everywhere. And it's just that's how psychology works in the markets. Maybe AI will change that. I really hope not. I don't think it will. We've had computer trading before. It works on past patterns. So I don't know whether it'll pick up something like that. And that is a complete change in the nature of the market. Technology over the years has made trading shorter and shorter term. So you get that sort of second by second or millisecond by millisecond in some cases for high frequency trading, which obviously humans can't do. But I don't know whether the long-term trends can really be influenced in that way. And I'd like to think that even if computers are programmed, they're programmed by human beings, so they have human biases in them anyway. But still, we shall see. But I don't think anything's really changed in the markets fundamentally, other than perhaps volume and size, ever. Everything, the market's still the market. It's still just people's opinions about what they think. And if you look at and read any long-term, read any sort of respected trading book, and you'll hear exactly the same thing. It just gets repeated in different ways, but things get forgotten over time, and the new thing that comes along makes people feel invincible about it never going down. And I don't think we've hit that yet.
No, not like I usually have seen it. And I've seen that both in the crypto markets in 2017, like early 2018, and then again in 2021's crypto blow off tops. And we're not seeing that kind of sentiment. Where I remember in 2021, there was a guy with a YouTube channel, a decent following, maybe 30,000 followers. And he was talking about how the market had topped, and he almost, essentially got booed off the stage. Like, what are you talking about? We're not anywhere near that type of sentiment like we have been in the past. So likely it's going to continue to run until the point where, like, if you say, oh my gosh, the market's going to reverse from here, the majority of the crowd wants to boo you off the stage. That is a sign that you're near or at the end.
Yeah. So yeah, that's one of the signs, one of the things to look out for. There's kind of a few things really that you kind of put together. And again, we've talked about it on the channel about people phoning you up and saying, how do I get into crypto? How do I buy this? And when you get people who've never heard of it or never shown any interest at all asking you about it, that is a sign. It's not necessarily the top, but it's the beginning of the end. And it seems very outside the mainstream still.
Yes.
Which is a good sign for the moment. It's a good sign.
All right. What markets are you taking a look at?
Yeah, so here we go with start off with the equities, US equities, the biggest markets, most important. We see we recovered basically almost back up to this 45,000, very key level. Stopped there once, twice, and now it's nearly there again. So getting a bit of cold feet as we get close to it, which is understandable given the extent of the V, the collapse and the rebound. So yeah, we might see a bit of a pullback just because people might start shorting it or getting out of longs that they had here and they saw collapse and they're like, okay, I'm back to flat now, so let's just get out. So a bit of selling pressure here perhaps, but overall I think this is going to do what the S&P does and break through it. And 45,000 is a really big psychological number. So the trend is up. So we're still just going with that trend and it looks good. Transportations, that's had a good run, heading back towards this high as well. That's a good sign. Nasdaq already in an all-time high, not really showing much signs of slowing. Seems to still want to squeeze higher, which is good. S&P the same, obviously big weighting in the tech stocks, but that's into a new all-time high. And again, it just doesn't feel like people really believe it. So Russell 2000, that's small cap, that's recovering. So overall, broad brush, equities still look like they're in bull trends. They may need a little bit of a pullback, but nothing, dare I say it, nothing major. I mean, I'm saying it and thinking I'm going to jinx it and it'll just completely have a massive correction now I've said that. But, that's obviously possible, of course. But the broader trends are still bullish, even if it does have some sort of shakeup. And people are thinking maybe the tariff pause would start to cause problems around now when the pause ended, but it could be that doesn't happen. It could be that happens a bit later. We shall see, but overall trends up. Now, looking at UK market, just for different flavor of around the world. UK looks like it's going to break higher. The CAC 40, which is the French market, that's underperforming, but maybe moving higher. Biggest economy in Europe, which is Germany, into all-time highs, and that's going to squeeze much higher. So outside of the US, things are looking good. Have you looked at the Canadian stock market into all-time highs, well into all-time highs? That's really bullish. Then looking at China, that's pressing this level here, which I think is going to break out and it's going to accelerate higher again. Hong Kong, the same. It just keeps touching this big level. But I think eventually that will go through. Japan has recovered extremely well. It had that August sell-off and the tariff sell-off as well, but it just keeps coming back. So, this is a big volatile range, but I'm just wondering if this is going to try and play up at these levels too. So that's all risk on trades. We've got gold going up. It's consolidating here. I did think it would, just because people got overexcited about war and buying it as a premium. So it's just done nothing really. Might have a bit of a correction before it goes higher, but that's still looking bullish. Silver's looking like it wants to break out, and some of the other commodities potentially basing. Platinum's woken up and that wants to move higher too. All risk on trades. We've got aluminium moving up. We've got copper. How about that? What do we say about that? It wants to break into a new all-time high, and it's really gone for it. This is just the beginning of a bigger breakout as well. Now, it got a little bit, people were getting long here. I was getting excited here for a breakout because that's how I look at the market. Sometimes it hits back and you've got to regroup and then go for it again. But the broader underlying trend was still positive. So all those things are saying to me that the broader macro picture is still bullish. I think what I found quite interesting was the idea that there could be this tech, like we could be at the beginning of a tech rush, and that means more raw materials. Silver potentially could be a very interesting industrial metal because it has properties that are conductive of electricity that's better than any other metal. Copper's only used because it's cheaper, but silver conducts electricity the best of all metals. So I just wondered, if you're making AI centers and you're going for incremental gains, whether they might start to use silver a bit more, whether its industrial use could start to overtake its position that just for normal demand. So we shall see. I mean, I don't know, but I just thought that was an interesting thing, that the AI wars are definitely going to heat up as we go into the future. And so dollar's still weak. It's going to rebound occasionally, of course, but main trends in the dollar are down. UK got hit by some political issues, but I don't think that's really important. I think the main trend is still negative, and that's good for global markets. So it's steady as she goes, really. It's pretty much the same situation that we've been discussing for, I'd say some months, but it might even be longer than that, maybe a few years.
It's been interesting, Paul, watching the dollar climb down to where it is. Can you zoom out for the bigger range and see where the dollar often bottoms? So we have the 2020, look at where it bottomed in 2021, and then where it bottomed previously in 2017. So yeah, look at that. Isn't that interesting? And then where it is now.
Yeah. Yeah, it has more to fall. I mean, this was like, if you take a step back, this is a major top. And it just took longer to form, didn't it? I mean, here I was definitely sort of banging the table going, the dollar's going to go down, and of course it went straight up, didn't it? And that was because of somebody knew the tariff situation was going to come. But it was when we got all the news on the tariffs, which was here, that was the top. So it was really interesting how at the peak tariff, that was the peak of the dollar, and it's just been going down ever since. So there has to be some form of correction. It could be a big one, I don't know. But lots of things that would normally move the dollar higher, like the Middle East tensions and, Iran and etc., haven't really done anything. So that tells me that there's soft demand. And there's also potentially a risk that the dollar decline could get out of control. But I think that's perhaps for a later date, really. For the moment, it's going down steadily. And I think that's what Trump kind of wants, really. But whether he wants it or not is in many ways irrelevant. The market is bigger than any one entity.
Mm-hmm.
And as the Japanese central bank, the Bank of Japan, found out when they tried to make the yen weaker and they find that they can't, it just strengthens. So they do try and control it, but the market does what it wants to do. They can move it in the short term, but not always. But either way, that is the trend. So taking a step back, dollar weaker, it's partly why commodities are moving up. If China starts to grow and they put their foot on the loud pedal, they're going to want more commodities. It just seems very clear. There could be this rush for commodities, and they're already bubbling up, and this could be a really big trend. So I think that's something to look forward to.
Awesome. Let's jump over to Bitcoin's price before we look at some of the altcoins and just see what its price action looks like.
Yeah, it looks like it's ready and primed to break out. I mean, this is a really nice row of resistance, and it feels like it's being sold against these levels. So the lows are higher. It's pressing against resistance. This is a big, what we could call an ascending triangle, which is a bullish pattern. So at some point, it feels like it's going to pop. And by pop, I mean, go to 115, maybe the karaoke level 120. But it'd be nice to see the karaoke level with all the altcoins going up, wouldn't it? It'd be a little bit like, oh no, what are we going to do if it's just, because I thought Bitcoin at 120 would be like everything, burning higher. So I thought there'd be this big party with that happening because it was so long ago.
It's so long ago.
Yeah, but to be fair, that's not really happened. The altcoins have been reluctant to move up, and it has just been it's all been driven by Bitcoin.
Yeah, mostly the Bitcoin show for the past year and a half.
Yeah, but it's so typical of markets to do something like this where it makes you feel like it's never going to go and that's it, and then all of a sudden it starts. So it's just patience.
I'm getting so much of that sentiment, not from my audience, but from everywhere else. That's like, nope, Bitcoin only, and they miss the point. The recency bias would say, oh yeah, Bitcoin has done well for 18 months and altcoins have done nothing. So therefore Bitcoin's going to continue and altcoins will continue to do nothing. And that's just not how the market plays out. So Bitcoin has had a lot of its run, probably has some more ahead of it. Altcoins at some point are going to go gangbusters.
Yeah, well, I would say when we get into this kind of frenzied phase, then that's what should be happening. But it feels like there's more and more upward pressure. There's more and more, like I said, with things like platinum and palladium, which weren't moving as gold and silver. Gold moving higher, gold being like Bitcoin. Gold was in a very strong upward trend, and anyone who wasn't in gold but into commodities and into precious metals must have felt really left out. And then all of a sudden, within the space of a couple of weeks, platinum just explodes, and silver starts to not lead but wake up a bit, and it's just doing that now. So you can never say when it's going to be, but it does feel like that when it turns, it just turns really fast. So you just can't turn your back on it. I mean, for the moment, it is still like that. But there, as I said at the top of the show, there are some green shoots that look like things are potentially beginning to turn.
Yes, that's what I'm seeing. Look, oh no, I regret that promise.
Yeah.
No, Chris is going to hold us to it.
Yeah, what I was thinking, maybe we do it in person. So I'll fly over to Canada and we'll do that.
So we do it together in the same room. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
We'll do
Maybe,
it over. See, Chris is in the private Rainmaker thing, so maybe on a Friday chat is where we'll do we'll do the karaoke version. I just don't think I want my singing voice out there on the airways for forever.
Yeah, we have to get very drunk to do that. That's the thing. And I think we have to make that as a stipulation. Everyone else has to be as well.
I like it. All right, let's dig into some of the altcoins. Looking first at Stellar. Now, Stellar Lumen is one of the ISO coins, the ISO 222 coins. This is a standard that's being developed for interoperability among financial systems mostly. And so there's really four, you could say five major coins, altcoins that are integrating with this standard to work with institution money, banks, and money transmittances. And Stellar is one of those. And interesting price action the last day with it.
Definitely. Definitely very interesting. I mean, this is the line, and it's just gone through and highlighting what we were talking about before, which is that nothing happens, and then you suddenly get this acceleration, which is why we have to be here every week and look at the markets, even when they're inverted commas boring. But yeah, this is significant. This breakout, from a short-term perspective, it's broken this downward trend line, which has been in for a while. It's been consolidating. We've got some higher lows there, but it's not huge, but it did actually do quite a good rebound from this point, which was a reversal of the resistance. So resistance support. But until this move, and whoever decided they wanted to look at it, I can see exactly why. And it's a very good call to draw attention to it. It is waking up. Now, the thing is, if it wakes up and then starts having a go at these three levels, they are massive. And this is where things start to get interesting. So these are the green shoots I was talking about, the first steps that indicate we might be going for these highs. And it will get serious when this happens. Things will start to move fast, I would assume. So yeah, this is a good one. I think it's a buy, short term and long term. And for me, I would put a stop loss below. I use this 60. This is a 63-week moving average that's just been hugging the low. It's touched it here. So why not use that as a stop? I need to put a stop somewhere. As you know, I need a parachute level in case I'm wrong, which I obviously can be. But yeah, this is a good one. So I'm interested. I'm going to be watching this.
Yeah, that's interesting. Short-term and long-term buy. Good timing on this one. Let's insert one because it's tied to XLM. Let's take a look at XRP's price, which is really the lead ISO coin.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's have a look if I got it there. Yeah, XRP. Exactly the same. We've had this triangular constriction playing out since November last year, and not a lot's happened. The move is less pronounced, so it's not as exaggerated, but it's very similar. But the setup, considering that there's been a lot of bearishness as well, I think you've got to take that into account. The sentiment has been negative. The markets have had a jolt to the downside and are recovering. And this is, again, just waking up. It's broken its downward trend line. That's the first step to a breakout. So I know it's too big for you to want to buy, but I have to look at it just based on the technical situation. And as long as that lower line holds, and it's held really nicely, so it's trading technically very nicely, making a good pattern, I think this could be ready to go for this 339 and maybe above. So for me, it's a buy.
What's funny is a lot of these larger cap ones I don't hold because I'm looking at the smaller cap ones, but doesn't mean I don't believe in them. I especially believe in XRP. I believe in XLM. Like, they're good. They're really good. I'm just hoping for things that have higher risk markers, therefore higher potential returns, to use this time period what I feel the best for the highest potential gains.
Yeah.
Though what's funny is XRP does have potential to hit numbers usually such a large cap altcoin can't hit. So let me look right now. XRP's just a second. XRP. I'm going to share my screen. So XRP's market cap is 140 billion. And what most people in crypto weren't around for or don't remember is that XRP's market cap once exceeded Bitcoin's market cap. So XRP's market cap at 140 billion, which seems like a lot. Bitcoin's market cap is 2.1. So it's a 2.1 trillion. So it's about 15x of where XRP is now. But Bitcoin's market cap isn't going to stay there if the market continues higher. It's going to be a lot higher. So I think XRP, a lot of countries, much of Europe, Japan, and the US are building their financial rails on XRP. And I don't think most of the world has woken up to that and holding it as an asset. Most of the narrative has been around holding Bitcoin as an asset, and everything else is just a dumb altcoin. They don't realize the extreme utility of XRP, but when they do, I think its price goes crazy. And I think XRP goes maybe to $50, maybe $100, maybe even higher in this coming bull run. And it's really unusual for something with such a high market cap to have that kind of potential. So I do hold some XRP. I don't hold a lot because there's not a lot of what I hold. There's a better pattern to look at for why I guess a higher probability for the kind of returns I'm looking at. But XRP does have a probability, and it's not a small one, that it could do 40, 50, 100x in the coming bull run. So sometimes I think, should I be holding more XRP? But I'm in such good placements. I really don't want to change them. But if I had tons of new money funneling in, I'd be putting a bunch myself in XRP, even though it is not anywhere near a smaller market cap like I'm usually looking for. All right, let's take a look at our next one, which is HBAR, which is another one of those ISO coins, and let's see what its pattern looks like.
So it is similar in it that you got this run and then a pullback and a downward trend line. It is working its way up, and there is a chance that this is going to repeat or follow in sympathy with what we're seeing with XRP and Stellar. So it's right on. I was just drawing the line in here. So it's right on the line as we speak, but there's definitely something happening because it's starting to accelerate. We've got a small move and then a little compression, and now it's accelerating. It's just where it stopped right here is on the line. And if I'm going to be fussy, I do need to see it through the line. I could be tempted to get this. Thing is, do you buy what's breaking out, or do you buy something that's not quite broken out? Like sometimes the one that leads continues to lead, and this lags a bit until it suddenly jumps and catches up. It might not catch up. It might just stop here and turn down. I don't know. It's a different strategy. But if I was just looking at this on its own, I would say a nibble here and then maybe look for confirmation on the breakout. So perhaps short term, just slight caution, but it does feel like this is one of the green shoots. Given this recovery and given that it's pressing this line, I think it does look interesting. So I'm just slightly on the fence in the same way that it's below this side of the line as to whether to actually call it an all-out buy. I think I could say it's a buy, but just with a small, for me, it would be a small position. So I'd start with a small position.
Yeah, it probably, if we're seeing this pattern with the ISO coins, it's interesting that somewhat synchronized they're doing it. It would signal that somebody knows something and that potentially a bunch of buying is happening behind the scenes. All right, let's take a look at Hedera on their market cap. So they are definitely a blue chip, 7.21 billion. Now, a lot of our private Discord members in the Rainmaker private group, our Discord is only accessible through Patreon. So you have to join the Patreon. Then that gives you access to the Discord where we have a lot more deeper discussions and we talk about things that never make it to the YouTube channel. And where we can talk freely every Friday. We do a Rainmaker chat, and often throughout the week in the discussions. And many of the Rainmaker family are in some of these ISO coins like HBAR, XLM, and XRP. In fact, we've had one of my good friends do in-depth studies on what is going on with XRP and why they're such a big deal. So it's fun to see their price looking like it's getting primed to break up again. All right, let's. Is it a buy for me? I don't hold any HBAR. It is out of line with what I do. XRP, like I guess the pattern why I buy XRP, even though it's a much higher market cap than this, is there is one pattern I can look at with XRP that when it catches traction, in 2017 is a great example. It passed Bitcoin's market cap, and it has potential to catch massive traction even amidst Bitcoin's dominance. And so I imagine, though, that it will have coattails, and Hedera and Stellar and the other ISO coins will take that coattail ride up when XRP does. And so it's fun to look at their price actions acting somewhat similar. Okay, is it a buy for me? No. XRP is the only one that I'm personally buying. Would I, if I were buying blue chips? Oh yes, this would be a buy. Let's take a look now at one I do buy that fits my risk profile really well, and that is OMI.
Yeah. OMI, where's it gone? Here we go. OMI. OMI. So yeah, it was a wait for me from last week. If we put it on a weekly chart, what do we get? We get a series of lower highs, which it's still doing. And we've kind of experimented with small nibbles around here when it looked like it was basing and then playing through this line, and then it dropped. We had to just say it was a wait again. This is a decent rally. I mean, this is a rally that's equivalent to this decline. So it's kind of negating that and maybe turning this into a base. So from thinking just let's wait to that this is doing something. It's done it before and it's failed, but there is more action going on in the altcoins to suggest that we should just keep a very close eye on this. So it's still a wait from me. But I would be watching it tomorrow and the day after and on Monday as well, rather than just going, no, I'm going to wait till next week or longer because inverted commas, nothing's going on, because this is an unusual move. And a lot of those have turned into, a sell, but one of them might turn into an acceleration, and I don't want to miss that. So, if I put a really speculative hat on, I could say it's a buy and then use this as a stop, because we have a very well-defined all-time low, or low for this chart. That's possible. But I'm given that it hasn't held on to levels, I'm going to have to be a bit more cautious and say, no, I'm going to wait. So I am waiting, but definitely we need to look. I know we're going to look at it again next week, but I got to keep an eye on this now because it's woken up and I want to see what it wants to do.
Yeah, they had some really big news announced about a partnership with what is it? Not Minecraft, but Roblox.
Oh, now that is interesting, because Roblox is a social media company or angling to be a social media and a Shopify type of business. So people think of it as a game, but it's actually not a game. It's going to be more than that. So that is actually quite a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why the news pump, as you said, it's erased. It's had a lot of wicks up and then it comes back down, right? So had a lot of false starts, but we generally see this rounding bottom here. And is this going to reverse the trend? I think the major reversal comes when altcoins massively reverse. So this in itself is big news, but until altcoins really ready to run, even really big news doesn't often turn the price around tremendously. Now, maybe this is big enough. It does that. But what I love is underpriced, undervalued projects, and COMI sits squarely in that underpriced, undervalued project for me. Like, I'm really excited about what the price is because I like buying low so I can sell high. And prices have been still exceptionally low on COMI. Many people, most of the people are saying OMI's dead. Oh my gosh, you still talking about OMI? How terrible. Oh my gosh, OMI's a scam. That's what I've heard for any of the great projects I was buying during the bear markets of 2018, 2019, 2020. Some of the ones that did 200x gains, one of the ones that did 3000x gains, those same things that most people were saying they were dead or wasted time and they'll never do anything. So, number one, people saying that are usually wrong. Number two, there's strong fundamental reasons why this one has good potential upside. Now let's take a look at
just before we, if you don't mind, if we could just before we move on. Sorry, we got a clarification from the real Randy Chavez. He's saying that that there's both Minecraft and Roblox was teased, but nothing confirmed yet. Sadly, I think that's quite an important comment. Because,
yeah, it is. I heard some people talking about it in my Rainmaker Discord, and I missed the show with Randy and Dr. Stuff yesterday. So that was T. Okay. So we don't know if it's Roblox or Minecraft. I heard somebody in the chat talking about Roblox, so I thought the big announcement was made. And that it was Roblox, but there's been some kind of tease about maybe it's Minecraft, maybe it's Roblox.
Is that from them? Is that or is that just rumors? Have they teased it?
People who have talked to the team have teased it. I don't know if the team themselves have teased it.
Okay.
Yeah. Good call.
Okay.
Yeah. OMI is massively undervalued. And so we'll see. Also, when it comes to partnerships, what's critical is what really is the partnership. I remember a lot of crypto places doing, we have a partnership with Amazon. And were they lying? Kind of by omission. They're like, they were using Amazon Web Services to host their stuff. So let's just say at a minimum, they were massively overstating things. So I like to look at what are the details of the partnership. And so it's like, if the partnership is with Minecraft, number one, that's always a big deal. Minecraft is so gigantically big that if that partnership is them just releasing some Minecraft collectibles, that would be a big deal. How big is it long term? It's little, like, it's a really good brand, but they have lots of really good brands. They have Disney, Marvel, DC. If it's Roblox, that's also a really big deal. If they're, or like another big brand, if they're just releasing some collectibles there, or is it something bigger? And so we'll have to wait, I guess, and find out what the partnership is and what the partnership entails. Randy says the tease was from VV Post, so it was from the company.
Okay, that's interesting.
Okay. So next up, let's take a look at Flow, which Flow often, it's in the same space as COMI's token, OMI. in the digital collectible space, but a lot of their digital collectibles have been sports moments like NFL, UFC, and NBA. And let's see what's going on with them.
Yeah. So Flow, interesting chart. Trades quite smoothly from a technical point of view. And we've got this downward trend line here that has been respected here, and here, and now it's just broken through. So it's a relatively small break, but it is on this level, which is very, very key. So it's 34 cents, 34.3. It used that as support, and then it's used it as resistance, and now it's back up, testing it. And this looks like a small base. I like the way this spiked down and it's moved up. If you look at the way the lows are pressing up, that looks good as well. So I think it's a short-term buy. Whether it will extend and accelerate, I'm not sure. But it looks like it's a coiled spring ready to break out. Again, this is just a probability thing. It might not happen, but I like the look of it. I think this is a good technical pattern that, from a short-term point of view, one could look at as a buy and then hold it on the low. If it doesn't go quickly, that will be not a great sign. So something like this should go fast because it's broken the downward trend line, it's pressing the resistance, maybe a day or two consolidating, then bang, it should go. And if it doesn't, it's like a firework that hasn't exploded. You've lit the touch paper and it should go. But we shall see. So I think I would wait here for it just to nudge a little bit higher and to take out these highs. And it might do it today, I'm not sure, but it might take a couple of days. We'll have to see. So let's say a close over this level for me would be a buy. So it's a wait. It's kind of a qualified wait because I just want to see it move that next step. So maybe we could look at it again next week and see where it is. But yeah, this is looking like it's the beginning of something. And it's what I like about it is it's not really that obvious as well. So, it's not done anything major and it's well within the kind of range parameters of all the other bars. So it might not even show up on anything unusual in terms of volume or price action. Yet the actual look of it is suggesting that it wants to move. So we shall see.
Yeah, it'll be fun to watch how it plays out. Flow is one of the ones I really like. It's easy for non-crypto people to buy because they can get on Coinbase. And so a lot of non-crypto people, if they know what they're doing, they wouldn't trust themselves to hold their own private keys yet because they wouldn't know good ways to keep those safe. And so Coinbase is kind of like a bridge for that technically you're having a third party hold it, which always has risks. But Coinbase has been around since like 2013 and hasn't had the failures that most exchanges have had. And so they're a safer risk than normal for having your funds on an exchange. So some of my family that's bought crypto that they don't really know what they're doing. I don't try to walk them through getting private keys but they want a riskier asset that has potential for upside. Flow is what I would be getting if I were in their situation. And for me, I like it as a buy for that reason. I like it at this price. Below 50 cents, it's an amazing deal. And it's well below 50 cents right now. So Flow gets a buy from me. Let's take a look next at DEVVE. And meanwhile, Big A says, yes, exaggerating partnerships was the 2017 ICO meta. We saw that a lot. Oh, we have a partnership with Google, meaning they were kind of using Google, Amazon Web Services. I saw that some in 2021. It wasn't as effective as it was in 2017 because people started to get wise to it. But even still, every time I hear somebody say, we have a partnership, I'm like, okay, what are the details of that partnership? The details tell us how big of a deal that is.
Sorry, did you want me to look at DEVVE or Sorry, I wasn't sure that you'd finished what you were saying unless you just.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, let's take a look at DEVVE.
Oh, okay. So DEVVE, we were looking for it to break a couple of resistance points, and it has done that. This resistance line, it's made a nice kind of V here. And I think what we were saying last week is there was at the outside a chance that it might do this inverse head and shoulders and come back to the 45. Obviously would have preferred it if it'd gone straight up, but it is coming back down. So this is now potentially a basing pattern. And when that happens, it comes to retest the trend line that it's broken. So this was the let's move into the buy zone breakout point. So it's showing that this trend is over and it now wants to move higher. What we've got is a high, and we need it's pulled back into a low. It's forming one now. And then we need to see it move up again to start this trend from here. So if we say this was the absolute low of this move here, then we've got one low, we've got one high. We need another low and it to trade through to make a higher low to confirm that trend. So the summary would be that it needs to hit 45 cents or thereabouts. Not exactly. It's just a broad pullback, kind of rhyming what it's done here. So pulls back to 45 and then starts to turn around. And that's, again, where we get more excited that it wants to now break this resistance line because it's hit that once and then twice. When it comes to the third time, it should break through it. So perhaps a little further downside in the short term, maybe retest this broken line, as I was saying, as support. 45 cents is a good level. It's an important point. We'll see if it bounces from there and then moves back up again. So I would say it's still a buy because it broke that trend line. We're just waiting for it to confirm this higher low. Now, obviously, if it goes below this, comes back below this line and starts playing down here, that's not really the zone I want to see it in, and it would start to raise some questions. I'd have to have some form of stop loss. Ultimately, it would be below this 33 level. I do not want to see it down there. It touched it like a hot, hitting your hand on a hot plate. So that tells me there was strong buying there. I don't want to see it revisiting or anywhere near that area. Because that would suggest it wants to go down and things are moving in the wrong direction, especially if the macro scene and everything else is starting to move up. But those are ifs, and those are kind of next steps in the chess game. For the moment, it's pulling back, which is kind of a natural thing after a good rally. Let's see where the support comes in, but I think it's still kind of in the buy zone.
Okay. Yeah, this is one of my favorite projects, and this is one of my largest altcoin holdings as well. So people might say, but Rain, you're biased towards this. It's like, you're correct. I'm biased towards this. My research that I've done on the company, and I own a small sliver of the company, and it's very small compared to the overall piece of the ownership in the company. So yes, I'm highly biased towards this. At one point, I was completely neutral towards it because I was beginning my research on it and seeing whether I liked it or not. And I felt like it was a good buy way back then. It's 4 years down the road from that point. And what they've done in the meantime is really, really big. So I'm excited. I hold a huge position in DEVVE. And I'm excited to see what the future holds. This dip down at these prices is amazing. And a lot of people will pass it up, and I think they're really going to regret it. So it's an amazing time to be buying this. So it gets a buy from me for sure. All right. Big A wants us to look at Hood, which I think is Robinhood's stock token.
So it's not a crypto.
I think he's talking about, Robinhood Markets. There we go.
Well, this is telling you something, isn't it, about speculation? If something like this can break into new highs, the trend is still up. I mean, it will be climbing a wall of worry. But I'm not here to give. I'm not here to give any sorts of tips. We're just looking at broad kind of macro themes and just superficially looking at what the technicals look like. But it's not bearish, and it's telling you something about what might be coming next. Is it overbought? By probably every measure, yes. And 100 is probably going to be a big resistance point because it's psychological. So it may have a bit of a correction from here. My guess is that they'll probably do some form of stock split because they know that investors don't like to buy expensive things. So splitting the stock will help to make it cheaper again. But yeah, the trend is still up. Might have a pullback, but overall, it's looking bullish, and that reflects what we're seeing in the rest of the market in terms of the risk on plays are and have been growing in strength.
Yeah, what's interesting is they're making some big moves in the crypto space. Now, crypto has accounted for a lot of their profitability, and they started allowing trading in crypto in 2021, and just on limited numbers of cryptos. Then they faced a problem with the SEC, who came after them, said, "You're allowing people to trade securities because we deem almost all altcoins as a security." And now that we have a different SEC that's trying to give clarity rather than punish anybody who touches crypto, um, they're moving much, much deeper and bigger into crypto. And I think it's a big deal. Robinhood, a lot of the young traders, so ages between 20 to 40, use Robinhood. And some of them have money. Some of them have made a fortune on Tesla stock and other things. And they have money that they can easily move into crypto, especially as crypto and more cryptos are available right on Robinhood. So I think it's a big deal. I think that's why their stock is taking off, because crypto is being so profitable for them. Let's take a look at ESS again. Oh, well, we looked at since last week. Mike, I don't want to look at Dash again this week. We just looked at it. Dash is not, I'm not seeing anything on the price action that would make Dash interesting enough to look again this week. So let's take a look at ESS. Now, ESS, I think we can only find it on CoinMarketCap or CoinGecko, sorry.
Yeah. Just while we look at that, I was listening to the I don't know if you've heard of the Diary of a CEO podcast, which is there's Kathy Woods talking about crypto on it, and it was really very interesting. I think it's worth a listen. I mean, she thinks, given their research, that Bitcoin will hit 1 million, which could be an exaggeration. It could be well researched, but some of the other things she was saying I found quite interesting, especially that she's not just invested in Bitcoin, she's also invested in ETH, which suggests that they're looking at that as a technology. But some of the other ideas that she was discussing, I thought were worth listening to, or at least getting a different perspective. But and it was actually on that podcast that she talked about Roblox. I didn't know. I know Roblox. I know the game. I know my kids played it. Don't think they play it now, but she was saying that her daughter set up a shop, and I was like, "Whoa, I didn't know that." But that's really smart because it's a development. It shows that, like what we're talking about with Netflix, it shows some form of innovation, that they're not just going to stay stationary as a game. They've got some vision of how to move things forward. So I thought it was interesting. Definitely worth checking out. So sorry, I got off track a little bit there. So ESS is it was the green one, wasn't it?
Earth 2 Essence, yeah. Earth 2 Essence.
Oh, that's that one. Yeah. Okay. Well, 14%, that's not a bad move. Yeah, potentially this is now, we've got 3 kind of strong green candles there. But what is the update? Is that up to date? I'm not sure. I don't know if this is absolutely an updated chart, but it's forming a base. It's forming what we would call a double bottom base. It's got to take out this high here, which is 4 and some change in cents. It hasn't done it yet. So by rights, being disciplined with technicals, I'd have to wait for that to happen. But the momentum is growing for it to do it. I would not have wanted to pick it up at the levels down here. So someone else is obviously much smarter than I am and can see something that I couldn't see in the fundamentals. Technically, it did not look good. And that's evidenced by the downward trend that it needs to do something significant to show that that ship is being turned around, starting to do it. So that's a great sign. And I'm, heartened to see things like this happening, which makes me think that adds to the the whole story that altcoins might be ready to go. But just over 4 cents is the breakout point where I can justify buying it. I could buy it anywhere, but I can't really justify it. It's like shutting your eyes and putting a trade on, or putting a bet on a roulette table. You could do it, but it's not a well thought out strategy. And for me, it's got to be justifiable from a technical point of view. So that's why I'd wait for that level to break. But it does look like it wants to do it. So perhaps a couple of weeks' time, we should look at it again, see if it's through. But that would be my buy point. I'd have to wait until that happens.
Yeah, confirm breakout, because it could very well just come back down from here and maybe even put in a higher low than before as it builds further momentum towards a break to the upside. So my friend Randy Chavez holds a lot of ERH2 essence. He owns a lot of ERH2 land. This isn't one that I've bought, and I feel like it's a decent project. I'm actually was quite surprised. They launched in 2021, and they basically took a map of Earth and like almost like a version of Google Maps, and they sold land overlaying where real land is. So ERH2, it makes sense, right? Their goal was to make a metaverse / video game world mapping the real world. And if they're successful, that land will be worth a lot and the token will be worth a lot. Now, they survived the bear market. So just by virtue of being alive and having worked through the bear market, probably going to do well in the bull run. How well? I don't know. I don't have a pattern to go off of with this. But I know a lot of my audience holds this one.
And what can you do anything with this land at the moment? Can you, like, is there any way to interact like a metaverse type of thing?
Yeah.
Or
there
okay.
are, like, you can put buildings on it and stuff. I think you can harvest ESS from your land. I'm not sure what you have to do to harvest it. Bill Gardner knows a bunch about this. Obviously, Randy Chavez knows a lot about this. And some of our audience members might be able to answer that better in the questions. I've never played the game or the metaverse. Like, I haven't bought land in it. I remember looking in 2021, I said, well, I don't know anything about the founders of this, and I don't know that this isn't going to be an exit scam, but it looks interesting. And I wish I had seen it right when it launched, because I would have been buying some of the lots in Manhattan and some of the lots in San Diego and other very valuable real estate with it. But all those were sold out. Jimbo, we will take a look at COPI. Let's do that before we go. Cornucopias is one of the blockchain games I'm really bullish on.
Yeah. So again, this is one that's clearly, we haven't looked at it for a long time, and it's been in a bear market for sure, but showing some signs of strength. Perhaps not enough for me to say it's a buy, but enough to pull it away from a very dangerous area, which was breaking this low. I think we said last week, or maybe a couple of weeks ago, the downward trigger of a new low is a sell zone. And once you're short, you want the market to go down, and it's not done that. It's actually stopped at the low again and gone up. So this is like a bear trap, and we saw it in one other market. I can't remember whether it was last week or the week after, or sorry, the week before. But it shows that the bears are not getting it their way anymore, which is of course, a good sign for the bulls taking control. Um, because this has been in a downward trend since December. I think we have to be a little bit careful and look for a bit more evidence before calling a low. But I could justify a position here and put a stop below this 1.2 cents, ultimately below below 1 cent, because there's enough of a short-term technical pattern. That doesn't mean that the long term is going to move. It's definitely going to move higher. It just means that I've got a good sort of, if you think about taking a position and hiding a stop where you think it's safe, that can be justified on this chart. There's enough of an upward move to say I'm not just buying it out of hit and hope. There's a strategy behind it. So small position for me could be justified with a stop below 1.2, maybe a bigger stop below the low, because there's some evidence of it turning around. But it wouldn't be a big position, and I would have to tread very carefully because it's still got a lot of work to do. But it's great that you bring it to our attention, because these things they just fall off the map and you just go, okay, I haven't seen that for a while. And we don't want to be then talking about it when it's up here saying, oh, okay, there was some signs it was already basing out much lower and we just didn't look at it. So this is the big breakout point, really. This is where, for me, I think things get much more interesting, because was the last big failure point. And if it's heading anywhere near that, it's telling you or giving a good suggestion that it wants to break it, and that would create a much bigger base. So yeah, good one. Thank you.
Yeah, I like cornucopias a lot. Let me go to share this tab. Its market cap is more in line with what I love, and it's all the way down just under 14 million. Notice it's gone right near the bear market lows, which a lot of altcoins did, which is amazing that we're this close to what I feel when I feel the blow off top is going to happen, which I think happens late this year. And yet some of these altcoin prices are right near bear market lows. It's an amazing time. Cornucopias I really like. In fact, I suspect the most adopted metaverse early might be a video game that has kind of a massive multiplayer type situation like cornucopias might. And so cornucopias might end up being the first highest used metaverse, even though it's technically just a video game. The problem with the metaverse, like Decentraland and Sandbox, is they've been fairly boring to interact with. So we'll see how this plays out, but I like this one. Good suggestion. Mike Jones coming in with the super chat. Can you do Ethereum Classic? It tracks ETH in its proof of work, which is the safest for regulatory clarity. Real quick, I do give this one, Cornucopias, a buy. So there we go. And let's take a look at ETH Classic. Thanks for the super chat, Mike, showing that you really want us to look at it. We will definitely then take a look at it.
Yeah, I wish I could say a bit more other than that it's kind of race bound, though. I mean, it's great that you draw it. You're kind of drawing it to our attention rather than, the other way. And I think that's an interesting thing that I've not looked at this before, so I wasn't sure what it would look like. But now I think I'm going to put it on the board because it could be an indicator that other things are going to turn around, and things that are slightly off the beaten track interest me because they can give signals for other things. Now, it's made a low here and a higher low here. So there is some evidence of it moving higher. This is a massive support point. I mean, this is like trading beautifully from a technical point of view. The way it just touched that and reversed and has held on to it. It's very important that it did, because I think if it broken it, there'll be a lot of stops going. But the way it's just done it all in a row, in a line, perhaps because it's off the beaten track, it's not being pushed around in the way that ETH would normally be. But it does need to do a bit more before I can say it's truly a buy, because, as much as I'd want it to go up, I could justify the downside as much as I can, justify the upside, because you've got a higher low and you got a lower high. So it's kind of in the middle of both of those, if you were to draw a line between here and here, it's literally in the middle of it, or pretty much. So it's in this really balanced point. Now, it makes it interesting because if it can just tip up a little bit towards this 18 area, 19, then this area becomes of interest, this line across here, because that is a classic technical trade to take it on a breakthrough there. So it's almost like a magnet. The more it gets drawn towards it, the more interest there will be in it potentially breaking out. Now, it does actually look like, from a short-term point of view, very, very short-term, it is trying to do that here. It's like a kind of a fractal of what's happening here. It's kind of happening here. So if it can get above here, that would be the first small step to maybe a bigger trade. But other than that, I think it's fairly neutral at this point. And again, we'd have to come back to it. So perhaps we could look at it again next week and see what it's done, whether it's started to move, and if it's made any progress towards here.
It's interesting. So ETH Classic was the original version of ETH. ETH got rolled back and therefore split back when a massive hack happened, and somebody hacked, I think, the vesting contract or a part of the tokens that were going to the ETH ecosystem, something along those lines. And it was a major hack. And so Charles Hoskinson, who was one of the founders of ETH, thought, well, we just continue to roll forward because we don't want to roll back the blockchain. Otherwise, it's not really a permanent blockchain if you can really roll back transactions at any point in time. And much of the rest of the team decided to roll it back. So the ETH we have now isn't the original ETH. It's the rollback version of that original blockchain, where they rolled it back so that the person who hacked that couldn't get access to the funds on the new chain, but he could on ETH Classic still. And so Charles Hoskinson said the new ETH would never survive. Well, it has. But in fact, he gave something like 2 million ETH, or I can't remember how many millions of ETH, to his secretary, and who then sold those for 50 cents a piece, making a fortune. But that ETH today is worth, what is ETH trading at? I can check real quick. ETH is trading today at $2,600, and those were liquidated at 50 cents a piece. That secretary probably regretting their decision, even though it was quite lucrative at the time. Essentially, that would have been billions of dollars worth of ETH today. Big A asks an interesting question here. Is it a reasonable TA thesis to assume individual alts will at a minimum repeat what they did in November, December pump? And that was basically an alt season preview.
It's an interesting question. The thing with TA is you're not trying to tell the market what it wants to do. You're letting the market tell you what it wants to do. So saying that almost sets an expectation of what it should do. And I don't know is the short answer. If the current macro trends continue the way that they are, then I think it would be reasonable. I think it would be reasonable for it to be bigger than that, because there are things going on. There's more kind of money going into the space. There's more wealth being created, and you've got Trump doing all the things that he's doing. There's lots of tailwinds that are pushing this along that would suggest that to be the case. But still, that doesn't guarantee that it will happen. And I obviously have to say that, and I have to say it because it's true. You can't, nothing's 100% guaranteed. The best sort of probability you can get on a trade might be 80%, but there's still that 20% that you're wrong. So I think it is fairly reasonable that we would see some form of, even breaking of that. But I'd rather let the market tell me that it wants to do that and look for the signs of acceleration and all those things that, breaking key levels, that sort of stuff is where I would kind of ground my view a little bit more, rather than saying, this definitely has to happen and it will happen and it's going to be bigger. I'd just be saying, yeah, it's a reasonable proposition that could happen, and let's look for the evidence and see whether it happens. And if it doesn't, the reverse is true. If it's not moving up, if more lows are being hit and things are breaking down, then unfortunately the market's telling us something else, and I'd have to adjust my view on it. And but thankfully that's not what's happening. There's more green shoots that seem to be coming out, and that is a good sign.
Yeah, I would say if you mean by reasonable TA thesis, meaning probabilities are good, I would say the probabilities are high that it will hit those levels and above. So after Trump won the election, there was some optimism that got priced in, and for the next month, a lot of things ran pretty hard. And then it pulled back as like other fears and other bad news and other things. And sometimes market gets ahead of itself, but then it further builds a base and it almost underprices things again before they then run. I think December was a preview. We're going to see much bigger runs coming probably soon. We see all these things bubbling up. I think something's coming. All right. We had some clarifications on where did it go? On the questions about Earth-2 Essence.
Yeah. You can rent the land.
Yes,
I
the
think
land earns items you can use in game and or sell. You can also stake your essence depending on what land you have.
Great. That's really interesting. Thank you for those.
Vidimon asked us to take a look at Palm on Cardano. Now, this is a token that just launched within the Cardano ecosystem. And I interviewed Daniel Friedman, goodness, it was probably a year and a half ago, about what they were doing with Palm. And so, sure, I guess we'll throw that in, and then we really will wrap up. Now, I've got it pulled up on Dex Screener here. Let me share this tab. So the token just barely launched, and this often happens. It ran up with a lot of excitement. It usually then pulls back, and it looks like the market cap, from what I can tell on Coin Market Cap, if this is correct, it's about an $8 million market cap now at this current price. So what will it do from here? There's not much history to look at. It seems to be stabilizing, but we'll see if the alts are going to bubble up and run. In full disclosure, I'm invested in Palm. I have a bunch of tokens myself, and I think Palm within the Cardano ecosystem will do very well in this bull run, which is why I bought it. So do I like it at this price? Yes. It does get a buy from me. Would I like to see it cheaper? Yes. I would love to see it at a $500,000 market cap. Because they launched in the Cardano ecosystem and they have such a presence in the Cardano ecosystem, Daniel Friedman was one of the early employees within Cardano, and he has a lot of contacts and connections. I think they have enough visibility that they're not going to hit those kind of market caps. I wish they would, because then it would give you an opportunity for an amazing, amazing buy. I just don't know that it will. Were you able to find anything on it? There we go.
That's we have some short-term chart here. Anything that's got virtually no data, I can't really give much of a view, because, as I've said before, with technical analysis, it's the crowd. It's like the more participants, the less any individual can really push the market around, and therefore it becomes more akin to what people normally do in terms of market psychology. So any one big player could just change the trajectory of this because they just decide to sell for whatever reason, and that means it's too vulnerable to an individual's whim, and that's very much less predictable. Having said that, from a very short-term perspective, it might be making some form of base here. It's been going down, but it's sort of basing out a little bit, or looks like it might be, and it's just pressing through some of those levels now. So perhaps from a very short-term perspective, it might be readying a move up, but I wouldn't want to venture much more than that on something that just really doesn't have that much data. I can see why you're interested in it. I can see why, something like this needs to be tracked, because it could start to accelerate and you want to get on it if it really starts to move. Maybe this is the first step to that. I'm not sure, but I can't justify it with any, I can't be that kind of sure about it going up. So I've got to be cautious about it for all the reasons that I just mentioned. But definitely we could keep watching it, because I'm always keen to see how these patterns play out. And, maybe this is one that's going to change its dynamics very quickly.
Yeah. Great suggestion, Paul. Thank you for joining us today. It's going to be fun to see how the end of this year plays out. I mean, historically, crypto has gone crazy every 4 years. So a lot of the craziness happened all through 2017, but with a Bitcoin blow off top happening in December 2017, where it reached its peak price from, I think the lows were like 1,100, went to about 20, just under 20,000. And then the price came down over the bear market to 3,200, went up to 14,000, came back down to 3,800, and then it blasted up to 65,000 later, early in 2021, so like March timeframe, and then it settled down for a bit and then came back down, exceeding that to almost 70,000 in October 2021. Well, here we are in July 2025, 4 years later, and Bitcoin and altcoins are showing some life. Bitcoin is definitely from its lows of 14,000. It's way up. And I think it continues a further run. And then I think a lot of momentum moves into altcoins. Now, there are some skeptics out there, and there were skeptics in 2021, that there will be no alt season this time. Now, a lot of the skepticism comes from Bitcoin maxis that are like, they really don't understand or see value in anything but Bitcoin. I've never fully understood that, because Bitcoin is an amazing potential store of value, almost like a digital version of gold, but it unlocked a technology that allows the internet to do things it could not do before, and to reach efficiencies in security and cost that couldn't be reached before. And so, of course, those altcoins are going to take over because the technology does so much. And how these Bitcoin maxis don't realize that makes me laugh. It's kind of like they've got their big boat that they're doing well on, and they don't want to look at anything else. And they usually miss massive opportunities because of it. And we've seen this all throughout history. All right, Paul. Well, amazing. Thank you for joining us. Thank you to DEVVE for lending you to us. We appreciate it very much.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for all the picks and the comments, and look forward to next week.
All right. We'll see you, Paul.
Thank you.
Well, DEVVE, one of our strategic partners, is amazing, lending Paul to us. So thank you to them. Thank you to our other strategic partnership, OneChain, which is doing amazing things in bridging between all the different layer ones out there. Like you can bridge from ETH to Cardano. You can bridge to most all of the major chains through OneChain's bridge and their X flows today. So I'm a big fan of OneChain myself and what they're doing. Now, where are we at? We're in July 2025. Is this blow off top coming? I think we just looked at a lot of indicators that it might be coming sooner than people think. Bitcoin's looking like it wants to test for a third or fourth time that pattern to the upside, and it wants to break through. I think it does this time. I think as it breaks higher, all eyes start turning to crypto again, and some real FOMO starts happening, which is how the blow off top happens. So it's almost like Paul says, pulling a brick with a rubber band, that you're pulling and pulling, and the brick isn't moving, and then all of a sudden it moves a lot all at once. That's often what the price action does when it breaks the upside. If you haven't taken our Zero to Crypto Hero course already, you might consider it, because it's not designed for everyone. If you're like a poor college student living off of $50 a month for food, it isn't right for you. You've got probably a lot of time, not a lot of money. For those that are financially successful and looking to make sure you make the best decisions in crypto, that's who this course was built for. It helps bring you up to speed much quicker than normal. Here is a quick preview. If you are like most of us, we came into crypto for life-changing gains, but were you aware that 89% of people do rather poorly in crypto? Only 5% achieve massive gains, and it's because they're doing things differently than most in crypto do. If you want to learn what most successful people in crypto do different, my Zero to Crypto Hero course will show you 5 massive mistakes to avoid and 3 things you need to be doing right. For those interested, there's a link below and a discount code in there, so make sure you use the discount code. Thank you everyone for joining us. We will exit with our Rainmaker wrap. Enjoy.
Came into the space chasing all of the gains, chasing the pumps and all of the hype trains. But like in life, shit, right before you could was told to buy when it was pouring like a rainmaker should. I buy when it's down, don't chase the boats that I miss, cause I always make the time in mind. I stick the one out cause I'm patient like that, and I'll wait for the right time. I sell when it's high, I buy when it's low. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm just a rainmaker running the show. Calculated investments, I don't lead with my heart. The principles are simple, they're leaving a mark. Buy when it's boring, just gotta be smart. I sell when it's hype, like all the channels they pump it. That's when I was selling, go parabolic and dump it. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes it time fly by, years going so fast. The game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love, and I follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Time is never better, the time like the present. This next 5 years is a gift and it's feeling like heaven. I'm committed to learn, studying to know that nothing comes easy, but with knowledge the game show. Sticking out this wrong, cause soon will come a bear market. We're learning and growing, and when it's slow will be the target. They say it's come out, Bitcoin is dead. The massive decreases can get to your head. Sticking around, the time is better. Strong like that, I'll let the others be fretters. 2 years time, the ball will bring back the gains. That makes it worth the effort, cause here comes the rain. So let's go rainmakers, let's make it all happen. Let go of the hate, let the haters be crapping. I'm here for 5 years, let's do this together. The time is right, the time could be better. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes it time fly by, years going so fast. The game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love, and I follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Haters be hating, the time to slow down. Addressing what they say when I'm wearing my crown. They're chasing green candles like someone who was new. I got a vision that was bigger, helping me to push through. I'm still human and sometimes it is rough, and that's what makes me special, simply I stay tough. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love, and I follow what I learn, not relying on luck.